We fixing to make this town real smoking.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Season 3, giving you guys a look at what's going on after the launch of the final character for Season 2. It starts off with this tweet here from Arsenal and Ash where he says, "What is your first impressions on Mizu?" Mizu is kind of dividing the player base, not in terms of how powerful she is. She's definitely no Anna. She's more in the ballpark of a Fahkumram and Armor King. But a lot of people still don't like the look, the sound, and also just the gameplay. You talk about the jumping on the pole and then doing stances, right? But the people who could look past that and it's not an immediate turn off for them, they're diving deeper into the gameplay and they're having a lot of fun. But those two different type of players are clashing heads right now. But you can see here, Tekken Madagascar community is extremely grateful to the devs of Tekken 8 for creating Mizu in the Tekken game. It's a dream come true. And you can see all of these guys gathered together with this big sign that says "Thank you Harada and Nakatsu." This even got the attention of the developers, where Harada says, "I'm truly glad to know that all of you are happy. Through the interviews and our time together at Madagascar, the conversations and interactions with you became wonderful memories for me." Nakatsu says, "To everyone in the Madagascar community, thank you very much for your wonderful photos and messages. Truly appreciate all the support and encouragement you gave during my stay in Madagascar and throughout the development of Mizu. Please continue enjoying the game together with your amazing friends." Now here's the thing, right? We all know that Season 2 got this huge backlash at the start. It started with Anna, and then the developers changed out the development team and things got a little different when Fahkumram came along. He was much more balanced, he was much more defeatable, and it's quite honestly weaker than most characters in this game, but I still think he's kind of downplayed a little bit. That trend continued with Armor King, where he was one, really balanced, really stable, but also note, still very aggressive, using heat enhanced attacks. He's still playing that style of Tekken the developers want us to play, but it's not in a way that overwhelms and just leaves you with no options. Both Fahkumram and Armor King was considered a W. Now Mizu is seeming like it's going to be the same thing. Players are still very hesitant to say definitively how strong she is, but she's following that trend of not being immediately broken like Lydia, Clive, and Anna all were when they released into this game. So that's a good sign, and it's a good sign for what's to come in the future when you talk about Season 3, at least in my opinion. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I cover everything Tekken related. Tekken is also celebrating their upcoming 2nd anniversary. Now they're doing this by adding some character panels into the game. You could just see they're going into the settings and they're choosing the icon 2nd anniversary, and then you could display these in a game. Now something that I do think is very awesome as well is that the Tekken developers put this icon in the game that simply says "knee" with an exclamation point. I believe this is something that you can display in the settings of your player profile. So this is something that I love, is how they're paying homage to the players who are doing great work in these tournaments. This is something that I said they should do in the game. When things like this happen, especially so frequently, where I say something in a video then later it shows up in the game, I wonder if the developers are listening. But for Season 3, it all starts with this battle pass. You know, the battle pass kind of leads up to the next character, and then once the next character is out, a new battle pass begins. Now the current battle pass that we have right now with Mizu is by far the longest lasting out of all of them. It will last 103 days at the time of my recording. Now players started to put the pieces together. If this battle pass, which will end on March 15th, 2026, leads all the way to the next character, whoever that may be, that will be the start of Season 3. We're now wondering this question of, will Season 3 start on March 15th, March 16th, somewhere around that time? I mean, it lines up if you think about the Tekken World Tour Finals starting at or ending definitively overdone February, ending of February, something like that. But basically, it's weeks before this. Of course, we are limited on the amount of information we have. We have Game Awards coming up. Maximilian is assuming there's going to be some kind of reveal there, whether it be story for Season 2 or they'll just go ahead and show something Season 3 related. For right now, we do not know, but we just know that this season pass is kind of lining up perfectly with where we kind of predict Season 3 to start. And this is kind of a big sign because FeedX on Twitter was talking a little bit about this. The problem that they have with balancing the game is that it's not that they can't balance the game, it's that they refuse to do so while tournaments is going on. So FDX was just throwing out this idea of like, okay, we'll start the season sooner, much sooner, so that way if something does go wrong, you can adjust it before the Tekken World Tour get going. Because we had 2 years now where something went wrong and players just had to sit through it. I understand the developers are okay with that, but you just have to think about it. Like, you can't do that to your players where they're upset and then they have to wait a whole year, and if something else goes wrong, wait a whole year, right? So I do think starting the world tour sooner would be much better, not only for the players to experiment and evolve and give that feedback that the developers want, but then you can also have time to apply it. I hope Tekken receive battle balance updates before the end of that upcoming free cosmetic period. Season 2 was frozen too soon in my opinion. I genuinely advocate for stability for competitors, but also we need more testing. Now, while we're also talking about tournaments and whatnot, for the finals, you have 9 Koreans, 4 Pakistanis. These are the players you can expect to see in the Tekken World Tour finals. You also have the LCQ and the regional leaderboards that will add a couple of people to this, but this is the conclusion to the global leaderboards of 2025. Now, another thing that I'll mention about Season 3, for this Battle Pass, once again, players notice that there is a lot of SNK references. Watch this. The next season is going to have an SNK character in it. From Shimaru's hair, I know I butchered the name, Yuri's pants, and then Terry Bogart's hat. Now, when people seen all 3 of these items, it's a literal comparison to SNK. You do have to bring up the question. Players want a new guest character. We're kind of debating about where it should come from, whether it should come from a fighting game, whether it should come from a movie, whether it should come from a different video game, you know, Tifa, etc., comics, animes. But if the developers did do something like that, you have to ask the question of who they could pick. What would you guys want? I was doing a little bit of research into Fatal Fury and I stumbled across this tweet here from Harada, where someone said, Harada, if you don't bring anyone from SF or KOF, I'll hunt you forever. Harada said, okay, then I'll bring Regal. Now, I want to draw a similarity to the same situation where he did a very similar thing with Negan. Someone asked him Negan from The Walking Dead as a guest character for Tekken 7, and he said, nice idea, but it's an historic villain, but he thinks he's too weak. And then, as you can see with IMOP's response, a little over a year later, Negan was added to Tekken 7. And we could be looking at a very similar thing here for SNK. Now, I don't want to get people's expectations too high, hopes too high, but I'm just noticing a similarity where people said to do an idea, and then, you know, we know it takes 1 to 2, 3 years to make a Tekken character. This tweet is like a year ago. Now we see SNK references showing up in the Battle Pass. People were expecting that to be a guest character. Maybe it could be Regal. You know, Harada also loves doing villain type characters. This is why he did Geese, Akuma, Negan. What do you think though? Are these Battle Pass items teasing some sort of future collaboration between Tekken? Or do you think Tekken is ripping off SNK just for the love of the game? Street Fighter just announced a collaboration with Call of Duty Mobile. Now, you know, Tekken players has been hounding the Tekken developers for a very long time to do Fortnite collaborations, to do meaningful collaborations. And once again, we have another huge one from Street Fighter. Even though this is Call of Duty Mobile is still big in a lot of places, and this is just once again building upon the brand of Street Fighter. And you have to sit back and wonder why the Tekken developers don't do it themselves, right? These characters are getting more and more popular by the day, and a large portion of that is because one, Street Fighter is just breaking records, but then two, their collaborations is awesome. Me personally, I would love to see some Dragon Ball Z skins in Tekken. I would like to see some Tekken skins in Call of Duty. I would like to see some Tekken skins in Fortnite. I would like to see some Tekken skins all over the place. Do like Street Fighter, and don't just go for mobile games, but go for the popular games, the big games, the games that are going to make an impact and be talked about for months to come. Now, when you talk about Virtua Fighter, Tekken's arch nemesis, its lifelong rival, you have this quote that says, they are seriously aiming for Game of the Year, a challenge to fun that transcends fighting game framework. This is an interesting thing. When you talk about fighting games, yes, they can win Fighting Game of the Year, but they're kind of gatekept from winning like Best Actor, Best Sound, Best Visuals, best story, best game of the year. There's so many other awards that is out there, and the only ones that fighting games can compete for is the one that's literally designed for them. And if Virtua Fighter was able to live up to what they're trying to do and they were able to reach that, it would be fire. And also it would just push fighting games into the stratosphere. Harada once said, when one fighting game succeeds, they all succeed by being connected to Evo, Tekken World Tour, Combo Breaker, etc.